Hello there, time now for Paper Talk here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us this time around, David Ornstein from The Athletic and Henry Winter from the Football Boardroom podcast. Great to have you back on the show. Let's quickly run you through the back pages. And we'll start with the Express, and it's very much the Rodri race is their focus. Like many other news outlets, in fact, Barcelona have joined the race to sign Manchester City midfielder Rodri. More of the same in the Mirror, who also carry quotes from Newcastle head coach Matthias Jessler. He says there was no chance to persuade Bruno Guimaraes to stay at the club ahead of his big money move to Arsenal. Rodri's El Clásico is the headline on the back of the Star as the race for the Spanish midfielder hots up. They also report on Arsenal missing out on Vinicius Jr., who has, of course, signed that new 6-year contract at Real Madrid. And surprise, surprise, the FIFA saga continues to rumble on. The Telegraph includes UEFA refusing to call off their boycott as they look to remove Gianni Infantino as president. More of that similar coverage on the back of the Metro as well. Not enough, Gianni, is their headline. Yes, but we are at that time of the football season, aren't we, where the focus is very much on transfers. And one of the big talking points at the moment is the race to sign Spain's World Cup winning captain, Rodri. Back page of the Express, Barca join hot rod race. David, Henry, really good to have you back on the show. I'll start with you, David, then. Who wins the race here to sign Rodri?
Manchester City, maybe. Of course, they want him to stay at the Etihad. They'd love to renew his contract. He's shown no indication of doing so until this point. They won't want him to go into his final 12 months. But it will depend what sort of offers come their way. Of course, Real Madrid have been the team that have been so heavily linked with him. And I reported some weeks ago that they were operating on the basis that he would be coming into the club. That's how confident they were. So something clearly appears to have gone wrong there to allow Barcelona to get their foot in the door somewhat. Their interest is said to be firm. Whether they've got the finances to tempt City into selling is a completely different matter, because we know how difficult it has been at Camp Nou in recent years with all the levers they've had to pull. And Manchester City, despite that contract status and his age, as well as his physical condition, he's recovering from surgery at the moment, will still demand a pretty penny for him, given how important he is to City and Enzo Maresca, their new coach. City without him would be significantly weaker. So would Barcelona be able to pay that amount of money? Do they have that level of finance available to them? Deco, the sporting director there, clearly is going to try. Have Real Madrid fully removed themselves, or has Rodri removed them from this race? I think it's got a little bit left to run, and City will have a say in it, of course. And if City are going to see the back of Rodri, then they'll need to bring in a replacement of adequate standard, and that is no mean feat in its own right. So it could turn into one of the most interesting sagas, and there have been a few of them this summer.
There have. Let's look at the back page of the Mirror. Hot rod is their headline. Barca and Real in transfer war for City ace. And as they point out, Rodri is in the final year of his contract at the Etihad and has resisted all efforts from City to commit his future to the club. Henry, though, is Rodri a player that City can afford to lose?
Well, they brought Elliot Anderson in, but they're different players. I mean, Anderson, probably they see more as an 8, whereas Rodri is a 6. And I think that there's a broader debate here on why aren't we producing players like Rodri? You know, England don't really have anyone of that stature, a player who controls, dictates the tempo, dominates possession. I mean, look, having been at the World Cup and seen him out there, I mean, it's good to see him back playing again. I know he's injured at the moment, or recovering from a small operation. But, you know, that was a very bad injury that he had. So to see him back playing again, I mean, he's 30, but I agree with David. I mean, Manchester City will be doing everything to hold on to him. He's 4 titles, 1 Champions League. You know, he's a leader. He's back in form. He showed at the World Cup what a good player he is. I think he was voted player of the tournament. Some of us might have voted for Bellingham, but, you know, he's outstanding. But, you know, it's the siren call of home. It's the siren call of Spanish football. He's from Madrid, obviously played for Atletico. Maybe that might make him go to Barcelona because of would he necessarily want to go to Real Madrid, wandering up and down the Castellana and upsetting one or two Atletico fans? I don't know, but it's very understandable why at this stage of career he might want to return home. But City, quite rightly, will fight to keep him. And if that's a generous new contract, he'll be worth it. And also for Elliot Anderson, will learn so much playing alongside this fabulous player.
Yeah, the pull of home will certainly be undeniable. And the back page of the Star, Rodri's El Clásico is their headline, and they point out that the noises coming from Spain indicate the World Cup winner would prefer a move to the new camp. But, David, I wonder about City's future planning in this situation. Might they already be preparing for life without Rodri?
Well, the Anderson recruitment is, really significant in terms of the size of the deal, but also the quality of the player. Henry is right to point out they are different players, and let's see what else happens in that midfield department, because there's been speculation over potential departures for Nico Gonzalez, for Tijani Reinders, and then City would need to be looking for some players in that position away from Rodri. So Rodri is really significant to them. I mean, anybody who has seen him in recent years win the Ballon d'Or, how instrumental he is with City. They, of course, went on that run where they didn't lose with him in the team and only suffered defeats when he was out. And I remember being at Wembley for the League Cup final victory against Arsenal, and he wasn't at his best. He's still recovering from his ACL, but just his presence on the pitch, his stature, the way he dictates and controls the tempo and the play and what City are doing. Also, I was at the World Cup final, like Henry, and he's the conductor in there. I mean, he seemed the biggest player on the pitch by a country mile, both in terms of his size, but also his aura and his presence. And that's why he's so priceless. And that's why we're hearing in the market, how true, I don't know precisely, but that Manchester City would want a really significant number for him. You're talking sort of 70, 80 million pounds, euros. And can the likes of Barcelona pay that? Were Real Madrid willing to pay that? Why did they take so long? Because it seemed a move that Rodri was enthusiastic about, but did he get fed up of waiting? And has that allowed the door to open to Barcelona? So there are so many factors here, and they won't want Enzo Maresca to get off to a bad start. And without Rodri, your chances are certainly dented. But there are a lot of questions in that midfield department for Manchester City. We're now already seeing tonight links around Europe with the likes of Enzo Fernandez and others potential replacements. I think Chelsea would have something to say about that. I think they value him at about £120 million. And as the market winds down, you're really going to, find it a bit more difficult to pursue deals for top replacements because their current club won't want to lose them. So we're into a more difficult period of the market here, and Rodri clearly is at the centre of that.
Humble brag from you there, Orno. Oh, I was just at the World Cup final, you lucky thing. We're talking about Real Madrid there in the race to sign Rodri, but actually one of their most significant signings of the summer might just be a current player. If I take you to the back page of The Sun, Arsenal paying with Vinny signing 6-year Real deal. He signed a new 6-year contract with Real Madrid. Vinny Jr. is not coming to the Premier League and he will not be playing at Arsenal. He will stay at Madrid and be playing under Jose Mourinho for next season. I suppose some people will say there's probably no surprise there, Henry. What do you make of the fact that it's a 6-year deal and that he's decided to stay?
I think he and his agent, advisors, family have played it absolutely brilliantly. I think we all knew this was the dance of the deal, and he's just absolutely tangoed off the dance floor with an increase in wages, with an extended deal, staying at the club, which is the biggest club in the world. And, players of that level, and he's in the elite, he's in the top 10 players in the world. They don't leave Real Madrid at this stage of their career. He's, 26, 27. He is at his peak. He's won, 2 Champions League, 3 titles there. Florentino Perez wouldn't want to lose him. Jose Mourinho came out and said in a piece or it was carried as a piece in the Sunday Telegraph by Sam Wallace that he wanted to keep him. He made that very clear. And with the Andy Amandi signing as well, I mean, they're going to be fun to watch. You could see why they probably want Rodri sort of winning the ball and giving it to these four amazing attackers with Mbappe and Vinicius Junior and Jude Bellingham in there as well. So, yeah, but you have to admire Arsenal's ambition. I mean, they did have the money, or they do have the money, and they've obviously got the ambition. They've clearly got a hole on the left side of their attack, and he would be absolutely fantastic for that. I mean, the intensity and the relentlessness of the Premier League, he might have to work out how to track back a little bit more. But, you know, what a player he would be. He would be a superstar coming to the Premier League, which is actually rare. We tend to get superstar coaches, not necessarily superstar players at their peak. So I always thought it was ambitious, but fair play to Arsenal for reaching for the stars.
Okay, back page of the Mail. Vinny staying. Arsenal suffer big setback as Brazilian signs new Real deal. David, was there ever a chance then that Arsenal were able to pay him the wages that he's now on with Real Madrid?
Yeah, I reported on this quite heavily, Jess, and that was my understanding for sure. They were ready to make an exception. We don't know exactly what the numbers would have been. And of course, there's always sign-on bonuses and image rights to help any club who's looking to do an ambitious transfer like this to fund it. And there are collateral questions like what would it have meant for the dressing room, the wage bill, other players and their contractual situations. But I think right from the top of the club, the ownership, Kroenkes, down to Andrea Berta, Mikel Arteta, they were all in on this and they'd done their calculations and they were ready to make a big assault on it. But it was always if Vinny Jr. was prepared to leave and not sign a new contract and embark upon a switch away from the Bernabeu. And that proved not to be the case in the end. But the fact is they had been in contract talks for 18 months. It was a stalemate. There was an impasse and there had been no movement. And he got into his final 12 months. And so it was a real situation. I don't think, judging by how invested Vinicius and his people seem to have been in this situation with Arsenal, that it was a pure play to get the new contract. But the situation clearly prompted Real Madrid to come to the table and finally, this week on Wednesday, raised their offer for him. I don't think they got to where he wanted to be entirely. We're hearing sort of the 24 million euros net number. He was being offered about 22 million before that. He wanted 28. So a bit of a compromise has been reached. But yeah, Arsenal were deadly serious about him. And they wanted him to be the face of their club and maybe even the Premier League as well. It would have been box office. He would have been, you know, after conquering La Liga and the Champions League and Real Madrid, trying it in the Premier League and with the reigning champions and helping them to try and go and win that blue ribbon European competition. But it wasn't to be. Arsenal will go back to the drawing board. They would have been realistic about their option, you know, their chances on this, and they will have other options as well. I don't think they can be faulted at all. I think they should be lauded for trying to do this. They wouldn't have been near a transfer like Vinicius Junior in the past. And the fact that they were at the table and they gave it everything and their best shot is probably to be applauded. And let's see what they do as an alternative.
But David, what are those other options and how important is it that, you mentioned box office player, that they bring in an elite box office player as Premier League champions, as a team looking to defend their title?
I don't think box office is essential per se, because they just want somebody to upgrade in their front line, wherever that may be and whoever it may be. They've brought in Solis, with obviously Trossard leaving. So that they'll like to think that's an improvement. Let's see what happens with other players across the front line. There have been links to Martinelli, who's a high-level player in his own right. And some people feel that, Arsenal can extract even more from him. But yeah, they do want to upgrade. And we saw last season, especially in that Champions League final, that they need to raise it somewhat in that final third of the pitch. And so, we'll see the links that come. We know they've admired Julian Alvarez at Atletico Madrid and still do, but it's not clear that he's gettable from there. Bradley Barcola has been linked in the past, but I think Liverpool seem to be front runners and they'll have some other options. And this will be one of the narratives as the window draws towards a close. What are Arsenal going to do in that position? Are they going to do something? Do they look to a slightly different position? But as Henry pointed out, there's money there, clearly, and there's the ambition to do something big. I don't think it's about necessarily being being a star name. It just happened to be that Vinicius was the one they wanted. But it doesn't mean to say they won't get somebody else who helps take them forward and that they continue to build on their progress. Premier League champions, they've now brought in Bruno Guimaraes. They're looking for a defender as well. So there are worse positions to be.